Okay, so we're coming towards the last stretch of this chapter, which deals with the details of Nekiyus, yeah? Mm-hmm. So this one, so we're in the section basically that deals with Midos. We talked about Gaiva, we talked about Kas, we talked about Kina, and now we're coming to the last one, which is the Chemda, which is the Taiva. Taiva and the Chemda he puts into one. At one point we discussed what the difference in Chemda and Taiva, which are synonymous words for desire, right? So let's see. But he seems to actually over here, he seems to bundle them together, right? So he says, V'tira ke'achoy sakina, the sister of jealousy, is Chemda ve'ataiva. Is one, and he puts them both together. Chemda ve'ataiva, then according to him, are just different expressions of the same midah, right? Whether it's lust, but let's see what he says, because okay, halohi hamiyagaas leiv ha'odam ad yomoisa, because it's a midah that wears out a person until the day of his death, right? In other words, taiva doesn't cease. You always continue dealing with it. Ukemamoram zechronim levracha ein odam meis v'chatz tevas b'yodem. A person does not die, and even half his desires are fulfilled. Right? So we see that until the day of a person's death, he still has desires. V'amnam, however, ikar atayva poinel l'shnei roshim. The general midah of taiva is split in two directions. Okay? Taiva is split in two directions. Echad, hu hamomen. One direction is financial, money. Vasheni hu hakavod, and the second direction is for honor. Okay? Shnehem ke'echad ro'im me'od, both equally evil. V'goymer mil'odam ro'is rabbis, and they cause a person a lot of troubles, a lot of evils. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, what taiva is missing from this list? Right, we got taiva for money. We got taiva for kavod. I could think of two more actually that are missing from this list. What's missing? Taiva for food and taiva for women. Right. So why isn't that? Where is that? Why isn't that? Are they somehow here? In these? Why is he talking about money? Money does not provide actually physical pleasure. Right.
You can buy.
It buys things, right? And kavod also is not a physical pleasure. So clearly, something that provides physical enjoyment, like money, like food, and women, right? Or what we call the arayas, is what he dealt back then when he talked about food and arayas, right? He, for some reason, let's think about this together. I don't have a good understanding really why. But because he spoke about money also, right? Meaning, for some reason, right? He told us when he introduced the topic of Nekiyus and Midos, he told us that for every Aveira that exists, it really begins within our Midos, right? So technically, Midos is applicable to every Aveira, right? So if we're discussing Midos separate from the Aveira, right? So let's say, I have a problem of taiva, let's say, and as a result of my taiva for mammon, I go ahead and I steal. Right? So now, where is the problem, right? Where is the problem? So if you'd say, well, we're going to talk about stealing, one section, and we're going to talk about midos in another section, even though technically you could say that midah is included in the chapter on stealing. Or you could say the other way around, the stealing is included in the chapter of midos. Right? But they're equal, but they're both present, right? Because he said every single Aveira originates with the midah. And since he chose to split up Nekiyus into two sections, sections of Aveiros and sections of midos, so then it should deal with both. Right? However, we see not that way, because we see that when it comes to taiva for mammon, he puts it here. But when it comes to taiva for women, he doesn't address it separately, which I presume means that it's included, under the general chapter of arise. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you decide what's included as part of arise and what's not included? Meaning what's included under the heading of the action and what's included as a separate standalone, issue of the midah. That's my question. Now that I'm saying it, I'm thinking the following: that when he talks about mamon, desire for money, he's not necessarily talking about desire for money in an illegal ways, meaning in usher way. Stealing, right? I have a desire for money, and I went ahead and I stole. 1 second. So that desire that produced stealing, it really is now under the heading of the action of stealing. And if you have a problem with stealing, so obviously you're going to need to work on the midah that causes you to steal, right? Mm-hmm. But let's say you already worked on that level of the midah. I have no problem with stealing. I have no interest in stealing. Okay, I'm a yosher guy, and I'm all the different headings of stealing. I worked on that. I cleansed all of that, right? But now I go to work, 12 hours a day because I want to make as much money. I got 3 jobs going because I want to make as much money. Oh, that's here in the section of this type, on the standalone type.
I hear you.
What about taiva for women? It could have taiva for women. That's also a standalone chapter then, because I don't have a taiva for women that I'm not allowed to have, but I have a taiva for my wife, let's say, right? I'm sure there's also levels, right? We have a concept of, Gemara says that Talmidei Chachamim should not, what's the lashon over there? Should not, what's the word? I don't know, like peck after their wives, like chickens or something, something along those lines, right? So that's also a problem, right? That we say, Terkiavi says, a person should not have too much conversation with a woman because, right, that's even with be'ishto yomru, kal v'chomer be'ish's chavera, and I think he brought that
earlier on.
He brought that before when he was talking about women. Second. Yeah, put machshav over here. He just puts it in a section called Be'inyan Hadiburim Ha'isha. But he doesn't. Over there, he sees it as a harchaka. It's in a section of harchakas. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, or maybe that's not part of Nekiyus then. You know what? Maybe that's not part of Nekiyus. Strange. I'm not sure. Okay, we'll leave it as a question. But I think the map is close. I think our map is close. That here he's talking about specifically, right, things that are permissible. But then again, when Nekiyus, remember, when Nekiyus has to be that the thing itself has a problem. So okay, let's see. So
money sounds like an all-inclusive category. I mean, he's a Yasher guy. He's working extra hours, 3 jobs, because he wants more money. But he wants more money because he wants other things. So
you think it's just a leading to other various? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think so because
the
problem over here really is not the money that you get, but it's the taiva. The taiva itself is the problem, right? The problem is this mida itself is a bad mida.
Right. So he's going strictly to the root of the problem, right? Meaning
right.
He wants money lishmo, or money for the money.
I don't know. Let's read a little more before we jump to conclusions. Okay, so
it just sounds like two. One is very gashmistic category money. The other one is honor. Is more
refined.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a coincidence. It sounds like a full package, money and honor. They're very complementary, not complementary, but together they make up a full.
So what happened to lust?
That
you think that's included in money? That's what you think?
It's my hypothesis.
Okay, let's see.
Honor, truth, pure honor, you can't really buy. If he wants honor for really people respecting him, it's not something you really pay off with.
I hear. So money is an enabler for all taivas, and kavod is a separate one, is a more abstract one. Okay, so meaning money includes all physical taiva, and kavod includes all quote unquote non-spiritual but non-physical. Okay, could be. Let's see. I don't think so, but let's see. The desire for money binds him to the ties of the world. When senes avoisois ha'amol v'ha'esek al zra'osav, and gives the chains of toil and involvement, right, on his arms, to his arms. Meaning, right? So meaning it keeps you busy. That's what he wants to say. Okay, it keeps you busy. Somebody who loves money does not get satiated by money. And therefore, as a result, it removes him from the service to Hashem. How many tfilos are lost? Become a mitzvahs nishkoches, and how many mitzvahs are forgotten? Mipnei, why? Roiv ha'esek v'yegias hamoinas chayra, because of over involvement and over toil in business. Kol shekain Talmud Torah, and certainly Talmud Torah. Right. So again, from this lashon, it sounds more like opportunity cost to me. It in itself maybe is not a problem, but it overtakes you, and therefore it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
They said that it's not Torah is not me'ever hayam. It's not on some distant ocean, behind a distant ocean. But you cannot find Torah by those that travel on business to far distant lands, right? Because they're preoccupied with business, their mind has no room for Torah. And we also learned not everyone who increases in business becomes wise. And that's sarcastic, meaning you're not going to become wise if you're going to be working in business, right? So again, the problem is not so much the stealing. To me, it seems it's more like you're missing out on avodas Hashem. So it's like opportunity cost. It's unusual. It's unusual for, and we didn't think about this when it comes to Kina. I don't remember discussing it when it comes to Kina, but meaning it's unusual for Nekiyus, the way we saw Nekiyus. Nekiyus is real averos that we just didn't fully internalize. That's what Nekiyus works on, right? Taiva, maybe if I'm not stealing, I'm not cheating in business, I'm not overselling and underselling and have no nikima. If I took care of everything until now in this chapter, and the only thing is, I'm a workaholic. Okay, maybe that's not such a big deal, right? Maybe that's in Chassidus already. We put it in the next chapter, right? What's the problem here? So I would have guessed the problem is that the taiva itself is the problem, because it's that desire, that trait is antithesis to ruchnius, right? Your desire for gashmias, whether it's because for money, is antithesis to being a spiritual person, right? But then that's meaning maybe is he proving to us, meaning these are the symptoms that tell us that it's antithesis to being ruchnius? That's what he's saying? I'm not super that's what he means. Meaning we see from the fact that a person whose mind is preoccupied in business, he can't concentrate on davening. A person who's preoccupied in business can't concentrate on learning. Davening and learning are our primary vehicles for ruchnius. If a person has no vehicles, because so clearly there is something wrong with this taiva. Clearly this taiva is colliding with your ability to grow. I guess so maybe that's pretty straightforward like that. Okay, let's move on. It also gives you over to many sakonos, and also weakens you, with much worry. Even after he already got a lot of stuff, got a lot of his goals achieved. Still, we also learn the more money, more problems, more worry. Right? Now he says, and furthermore, it could bring you to transgress on mitzvah Torah. Not only that, it can trap you into overcome. What's the word I was saying? Transgress, but very good. But what they translate here in dictates of common sense, but meaning it could pull you to go into against natural, normal, logical things, right? So money will cause you to, right? So meaning, Torah is part of it is within the flow of nature. Part of it is against the flow of nature, and we discussed this at some other time, right? You have to overcome nature in order to be a good Jew, right? You have to find so. Kol shekain, but money, he says, the desire for money can lead a person not only to not work on himself and overcome his problems, it could lead him to actually go against even the things that are very normal and very natural. My question is, what does he mean by that? What is he talking about when he says chukos haseichel hativim?
Right, it's very normal, natural to work until you get tired, and you get tired, you stop. So here you go until tired is not a problem.
Right. That's what it means, possibly. Right. Or meaning when you see people that are workaholics, the doctor says, you have a heart condition, you got to relax, and they go and they keep on working, right? Maybe in that sense. Okay, could be. Okay, moving on. So that's the first, right? So that's the first desire for money. Desire for money. Okay? Yiseira aleha, more than this. Chemdas hakovod is the desire for kovod. Okay? Chemdas hakovod, desire for kovod. Okay? Why did he put it like that? Meaning if you didn't ask you, what's a stronger desire, for money or for kovod? I would have said maybe some people have a strong desire for kovod, other people have a strong desire for money. He seems to be clearly stating that the desire for kovod is more than this. right? He's putting them on a hierarchies, not parallel, they're hierarchies. Okay, let's see why. Okay, kvar hoya efsher, because it's possible that a person who's already overcomes his yetzer for money, and over other pleasures. So he brings in other pleasures over here. But the kavod, his desire for kavod, is what's holding him, pushing him. Because he cannot see himself less than his friends. And over this, many were stumbled and many were lost. Right? So, again, I don't fully understand this. He seems to be saying, why is COVID more difficult? Why is COVID more difficult? Because that connects to others. Others. Maybe money also connects to others. Elon Musk has this much money, and I have that much money. This guy has a yacht, and I don't have a yacht. So, is that it's not the same? That's the reason? I can't see or is that already also part of COVID? I'm not fully grasping the situation over here. Now he's going to bring a lot of examples of where COVID was the issue. What bothers me also, and this I don't have an answer to, also is COVID. Where would you put COVID into? Meaning, he told us like this. He basically divided the midos into four. In the very beginning, when he says, now we're going to talk about midos, he said, he's going to talk about four midos. Gaiva, Kas, Kina, and Taiva. Those are the four midos. Gaiva, Kas, Kina, Taiva. Now he just says, you know what? Within Taiva, there is also COVID. Now, if you would have asked me, okay, where do you put kavod amongst these four midos, Gaiva, Kas, Kina, and Taiva? Where would you put kavod? You know where I would put kavod? I would put it in Gaiva, right? Why is it that Ramchal throws kavod into Taiva? And what's interesting is, again, he in one of the examples of Gaiva that he gave is a guy who considers himself to be mechubad. Right, he's already so mechubad that he can't lose COVID. So clearly, Gaiva and COVID are in the same. So, I mean, if you want to put COVID into Taiva, so you could put Gaiva into COVID too. I mean, I have desire for Gaiva. I mean, anything. I mean, so I'm not. I lost the map over here. I lost the map. Why is it that COVID is in the Taiva category? Right.
Something that is highly desired.
I understand it's desired, but Gaiva is also desired. No, I don't know.
Gaiva is he wants something, the person wants something that the other guy has.
Gaiva?
Sorry, okay.
Kina?
Yeah, Kina, right, so never mind.
In Gaiva, he uses the lotion that I need others to praise me. So there is also that idea. So isn't that also COVID?
Right, of course, right.
That's also COVID. I mean, you could have said maybe that COVID is something that I receive. Gaiva is something that I feel. Gaiva is my own sense of self, and COVID is something that I receive. I walk into shul, everybody stands up for me. I get COVID. I get shlishi, whatever. I receive COVID. So since I receive COVID, so therefore I have a taiva for COVID.
Right, it's external.
Gaiva is something within me that I'm feeling. It's true, it's connected to COVID, but it's not something that I desire. Desire has to be for something outside of me, right? And Gaiva is something that I have within me. Kina is jealousy, but it's within me. It's true that I desire somebody else's stuff, and that gives me kina, but kina is within It's my problem. I have jealousy. I have envy over his stuff, right? So therefore, it's within me.
Right,
So that's why it's a separate category. Taiva for Mammon is not the same as Kina, even though they're related, which is I call them achois. But Taiva for Mammon is there is this money and I desire it. I want it to be me, right? Kina is just I'm seething with the problem that he has something that I don't have. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm shaky over here now. Okay, but let's just read now through. What time is it? Okay, let's just. It's so close. It's so far. Okay. Anyways, let's just read this. Hina Yeravim ben Nevot. Right? He lost his Olam Haba only because of Kavod. Our sages said. Tafsa Kosh Baruch Hu bevigda. Kosh Baruch Hu grabbed him by his garment. V'omer lo, and he said to him, Chazor b'cha, do tshuva ve'ani ve'atov u'ben Ishai nital began Eden. And you, me, and Ben Ishai, meaning David the Melech, nital began Eden. We will stroll together in Gan Eden. Omer lo, Yom Ben Nevat says to Kosh Baruch Hu, mi beroish, who's going to be first? Omer lo, Ben Ishai beroish. You know, David the Melech is going to be in the front. In that case, I'm not interested. Right? Just because David the Melech was going to be ahead of him, he decided to lose all of his Olam Haba. Migor, right? So we see how far the desire for Kavod goes. And again, this is his understanding. This is his source, maybe in a certain sense. Right? He's understanding that the reason why Kavod is difficult is because I can't see the other guy be ahead of me. Right? I need to be in the front. I need to be Barosh. Right? The fact that I couldn't be Barosh, that's it. The rest of it didn't matter. Right? And again, this is a famous, we mentioned this 1,000 times, but right, in the question, when Hashem said, you know, do tshuva, and then me and you and David the Melech are in Gan Eden. So he said, you before David the Melech. Why are you asking me Barosh? It says very clearly, it's you shows. First, and then David the Melech. Only when he asks me Berosh, then Hashem switched the order and he said Benisha Berosh. But in the initial statement it says you first. So what is he asking question? Right? So I think my friend said that he wanted to hear it again. You know. So anyways, okay, so moving on. Okay, now Migaram L'Kairach. Right? Sheyovad who that he got destroyed and his whole congregation with him. Elam b'nei Kavod, it's only Kavod. Mikramoli who ubikashtem gam kehuna. You also want kehuna, right? Moshe Rabbeinu addressed them, right? V'chachamim zechron l'rocha yigidu lo. Who told us? He called Zen Nimshach that his whole rebellion originated from the fact that Nishuror Litzofen ben Uzziel Nosi. And it's often the son of Uzziel was chosen to be the Nasi of the Shevet. And he thought he was the one that should have been chosen, right? So he felt that he was passed over. Again, the same idea is that somebody else was chosen to be ahead of me. That doesn't make sense. And the same thing is the source from Meraglim. Sheyatziu Diba Lahor. They spoke Lashon Hara about the land. V'gormu Misa Lehem L'chol Doiram Miyirosam. Why? From their fear, from their suspicion. Pen Yimat Kvoidam B'Knisas Ha'ora. So their Kvoid will be diminished when they enter the land. Why? Shloyu Heim Nisiyim L'Yisrael. They're not going to be, no longer will be Nisiyim in the Klal Yisrael. V'yamdu Acherim B'Mekoyim. And others will replace them. Again, this is a very different. His interpretation is he's kind of pushing his line over here. Meaning, it's just simple. I'm not going to be a Nasi. I'm going to lose power. I'm going to lose influence. I'm going to lose my monetary position. Who says it's about Kavod? Right? Who says it's about Kavod? He said. He's sticking in here that their problem was that their Kavod will be diminished, they will not be Nisim, and somebody else will take their place. I don't want that somebody else take my place. It's a little stretchy. Al ma hischil Shaul le'erev el David. Again, also, furthermore, how did Shaul start attacking David? Elim bnei Kovet, also regarding Kovet, Shenemar, v'tanenu anosi ha'mesacha kois v'temarna hika Shaul, v'hi oyin es David me'ayoyim ha'hu v'hola. Right? So because David was having all these victories, the bottom line is David was having all these victories, and Shaul, even though he was a very well-respected swordsman and etc., and victorious leader, and he won all these wars, so people started praising David over him. They started comparing him to David and said, David the Melech killed more. Mm-hmm. So that's when Shaul started having hostility towards David. Okay. Where are we? Oh, Migaram the Yoav Sheyomis Amasa. What caused Yoav to kill Amasa? Right? Generals of David the Melech. Right? Because Ela Kovid also Kovid. Sheomar Loi David, because David the Melech said to Amasa, Im Loi Sar Tzvot Tiyeh Lefanai Kol Hayomim. Right? If I do not make you commander all these days. In other words, he appointed Amasa over Yoav, so Yoav got jealous. So again, goes back to now. So now COVID now. Is it jealousy or is it COVID or is it now? Before we had a problem with Gaiva, but now it sounds more like.
Is it internal or
Kino?
External? Yeah. If you want, you could probably twist into anger.
So that's that, right. So that's what I'm saying. I lost the map because technically anything can flow. So what made him decide to place it? Okay, anyways, let's just read this. We're not going to finish, even though we're 2 pages away. But Klolei Shel Dover. So the rule of the matter is a kovid who had doichik a slave ha'odam yoiser mekol ha'tshugos. The kovid is something that presses upon the heart of a person more than any other desire. And if not, okay, let's leave it. Let's leave this for next time. We'll start again with this Klolei Shel Dover, right? But so he sees COVID as the pinnacle of desire. COVID is the pinnacle of desire. And again, I would have said I agree with him. I agree with him that COVID is the pinnacle of desire, but not because I don't want the other guy to go ahead of me. Is that what? Meaning that's a negative way of looking at it. I would look at it a positive way. COVID is Mama. I have $1 billion. I have $1 trillion. Is there such a difference between me having $1 billion and $1 trillion? Probably not. COVID is an abstract idea.
Money you can count.
It's infinite. There's never-ending amount of COVID that I could get. So maybe I would have said that the reason why I have such a strong chukka for COVID is because it's
there's no end.
It's right. It's much more of a big. The biggest thing I could technically get because it has no end, right? But that's not what he's saying. He's saying my problem is, I just don't. It's back to Yerovam ben Nevat. Me Barosh. Who's going to be ahead of me? I don't want anybody ahead of me. COVID. Everything is mine. Everything's mine. All COVID has to be mine. It's a little bit psychopathic or sociopathic or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. So okay. So let's just summarize where we were today. So we talked about 2 types of taivas, right? We were focused on taiva. Our first question that we don't have fully answered in my opinion is what happened to the simple taivas for food and women, right? Second question was right? So we elaborated on that when do we look at the midah separate as its own entity, and when do we consider it to be part of the action that it leads to, right? And we see, right? And the question was, at which point, again, when it comes to midah, at which point do we say that the midah is part of the Nekiyus, process, then it means it in itself is a problem. Or to which point do we say no? It's part of some later process that you have to, you have to like Hasidus, some kind of like a really tzitkas type of a thing. And then we also spoke about kavod, and the question is again, where do we place kavod? It seems to be related to gaiva, it seems to be related to kina, and yes, it also seems to be related to taiva. And over there we might have a map. Is that kavod is something that you receive, so therefore it seems to be more in line with desire because you actually get something, as opposed to something like kina and gaiva are more like internal sensations. But then we had after all these examples, I'm not so convinced if that's really so clear cut, because we see these examples of Yoav and David and Yeravam and Korach. Just I don't want him to get to be I don't want to be passed over.
Very external.
It's questions. It sounds very much Kina like, not even Gaiva like, but very much Kina like. So a little bit. So I don't have a map right now.